And Porzingis, in theory, is both a role guy and a pick and popper, even though 28% shooting from three this year has been really weird.
There was no smoke whatsoever about the Washington Wizards and Kristaps Porzingis, but as it turns out, the Wizards sent Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans to the Dallas Mavericks. The Wizards got Kristaps Porzingis and a future second-round pick. I don't know if we've seen what the specifics on that pick, but effectively Porzingis for Dinwiddie, who they signed this past offseason and sounded like things just did not get off well with him and Beal, and then Davis Bertans, they signed to a 5-year, $80 million contract prior to last season, and he had a contract year at the right time. Good on you, Davis, but he has been horrendous for each of the past 2 seasons.
Relax. We'll get there. That's not his fault necessarily.
Okay. Well, what did you think of the deal from Washington's side?
Well, so Washington, this is one of those things where you look at Bradley Beal, you know that he might be leaving, and you go, look, we gave you something. And I'm actually not sure it's a bad mix. I mean, you are now a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for, diverse in how you score. Instead of always gambling on the backcourt scoring, like they had consecutive years with Beal and Russ, and then Beal and Spencer Dinwiddie. For now, they're just kind of going, you know what? Let's give you a guy at a different position. Let's see if that works. And Porzingis, in theory, is both a role guy and a pick and popper, even though 28% shooting from three this year has been really weird. And let's see if that comes back up to normal standards. But I see the logic in getting him in there as a presumed second piece to show Beal, look, we're trying to be serious about this. If you want to stick around, we can give you KP, who's, in fairness, is almost at 20-8 this year. So maybe if he gets off on the right foot here in Washington, maybe if he just fits the overall scheme, there's something to be found here. I like the gamble, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, considering what they gave up, it's really not bad.
Agreed.
I don't know that this meaningfully does anything for them, because if KP didn't work out as the number 2 next to Luka, who is significantly better than Bradley Beal, I don't know why he's going to work out as the number 2 next to Bradley Beal. And given how crowded that Washington front court is, yes, they got rid of Montrezl Harrell, but they still have Rui and Danny and Daniel Gafford, who they just signed to an extension. I know Thomas Bryant is expiring, so that's not a long-term concern. Still have Corey Kispert as well. Still have Kyle Kuzma. They have a lot of guys, honestly, probably 3 or 4 guys whose best position is the 4.
Yeah.
So
and we talked about this coming into the season. They had way too many bigs. Yes.
Right. And they didn't really address that problem at all yesterday. So
they send off Montrezl Harrell.
Yeah, but they brought in Kristaps.
Yeah, but at least they didn't bring in Kristaps and then keep Montrezl around.
Yeah. Right. They're at a net zero in terms of bigs coming in and out, I guess.
Exactly.
But I mean, if they were Davis Bertans, again, for getting out of that contract alone, I think is a huge win for them. He was averaging 14.7 minutes per game, shooting a career worst, I have to imagine. Yeah.
No, I have it here. Yeah.
35.1% overall, 31.9% from three. He's owed, I think it was $49 million over the next 3 years.
He signed $80 million over 5. But here, look, let me just go into my defense here.
Okay.
One thing is, when he's playing 14.7 minutes per game, show me a shooter who can find his rhythm in that little amount of time. And if we ignore this season, he's shot 40.7% from 3 over the course. Apologies on his during his career. He is, as you've seen him as much as I have. This is a guy who throws himself into 3-point shots. This isn't your standard up and down 3-point shooter. He needed something else. He had this one good season with Washington, and afterwards they kind of stopped using him. He became an afterthought. I don't think they made a concerted effort in trying to rehab his value. I don't think they tried to really bring him into a situation that worked. It was like, oh, you'll become disappointing, and we're just going to go with different players. Like, you had a completely crowded front court. Sometimes they played an out position where you're just like, he doesn't have the speed for that. Or you just wonder what the hell they were doing. At least in Dallas, I think there's a stronger possibility that he can rehab his value there. First and foremost, he's playing alongside Luka freaking Doncic. He's going to get all the three-point shots that he wants. He could effectively become 80% of what Kristaps Porzingis is at half the price. I think there's a lot of potential here in Bertans rehabbing his value. I think go ahead.
Well, no, I agree with that. I don't think it was going to happen in Washington. Right. Because of how crowded the front court was. And if memory serves, he had COVID last year and struggled because of that for a while.
Oh, yeah, it tore him up. He had a bad one.
Yeah. So I think that, obviously contributed to his struggles last year. And then, this year, it was just too crowded. And, especially with Beal now out for the season, of course, they're going to prioritize some of the younger guys like Rui and Denny. Why are you playing a 29-year-old Davis Bertans 30+ minutes per game in the last season? You're just not going to do it. It's a great chance for Davis Bertans to restart his career. And if things really were as bad with Dinwiddie as they sounded, I think with Beal becoming an unrestricted free agent this offseason, you just had to get him out of there just to try something else. I don't know that Beal is looking at this roster now and is like, oh, okay, well, this is so much better than it was before the trade deadline. Kristaps is signed 33.
Well, before you go along with that one, here's the thing. You're forgetting how much NBA players put stock into having a guy who can drop 20 for whatever reason.
That's fair.
That's we've talked about this before, but that is one of the things that NBA players look at. Look, LeBron James still thought that Russell Westbrook was a great player.
That's true.
Players have a tendency to look up the raw stats and go, wow, this guy can really do some damage. And Bradley Beal is going to see KP averaging 19 and 8. And he's going to go, oh, that's nice. So I would not be shocked if guys look at that as, oh, that's great. That's rock solid.
And shooting 28.3% from three this year.
Look, again, we go LeBron James, one of the smartest basketball players we've had in the history of the game, thought Russell Westbrook was a good. Come on, this is where we are with the discourse. I mean, if anything, Spencer Dinwiddie is the guy who's going to take the most realistic look at anything because he's on NBA Twitter a ton. He goes into the analytics. He is the guy who would actually have a realistic perspective of things.
Right. Yeah. I guess the good thing for the Wizards is that the Sixers pulled off the Simmons trade now instead of this summer, because that closes off. They're no longer a threat to steal him away from Washington.
Correct.
So that's one fewer possible landing spot for Beal. And the teams, Portland opened up cap space. I don't think Bradley Beal is going to sign with Damian Lillard with his future so far up in the air.
That would be glorious, though, just having those two. We've talked about this before. I kind of want it. I want this team with all those guys who are just unsatisfied. Just put them all on one team.
Well, James Harden and Ben Simmons are going to have to go there in a year, probably.
Oh, you said that. You said that. Okay.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't think this does anything to significantly increase the Wizards' chances. And I guess the one potential, Kristaps has been out for a while with this knee injury. I wouldn't be surprised if the Wizards say, hey, go ahead, take your time, take all season to recover from this. Maybe this helps boost their lottery odds, being without Dinwiddie, who wasn't good, but their point guard situation, because they also dumped Aaron Holiday to the Phoenix Suns just for cash.
Didn't they relinquish a first rounder for him in the first place?
I think they gave up 22 and then they brought back number 31 or something. So it's similar to the Raptors Spurs trade that we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
It wasn't wasn't a good use of assets, but
Right.
when's the last time we could say that about Washington? Whatever. Like this trade doesn't move me, like making me think next year the Wizards are going to turn into anything more than a play-in team, especially like, Kristaps has missed a ton of time in basically each of the last 4 or 5 seasons at this point. I would be shocked if he ever plays more than 60, 65 games in a season.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Yeah. So I think, the Wizards are probably sleeping a little easier knowing that if the Beal Dinwiddie thing was really as bad as it seemed, like, all right, we probably increased our chances of re-signing Bradley Beal this summer, but still would not bank on him finishing that next contract in Washington.
Right.
What did you think of this deal from the Mavericks side?
I actually liked it for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
When I say like it, I mean, it's not like I'm hands up in the air, It's I just don't. I think it was less egregious than NBA Twitter made it out at. And by the way, we need to stop taking like instant reactions from Twitter as some sort of indication that things are going to work out, because everyone is like, now people are on the Sacramento Kings wagon because Sabonis had one good game.
Well, and the Kings made a smart trade on Thursday, which
we'll get
shocking.
There. We'll get there. But I don't hate it for Dallas. First and foremost, you break up Kristaps' contract into 2 smaller pieces. That's always smart to do because it makes it easier to move away from in different trades. That's the business side of it. And if you wanted to pivot away from Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans, especially if you rehab their value, you can do so. That should at least give you some more financial flexibility, which, in my opinion, you kind of need around Luka if you want to build up properly. But here's the thing. I don't think what Spencer Dinwiddie needed in the backcourt was a guy like Bradley Beal. And when I say a guy like Bradley Beal, that sounds negative. That's not what I mean. I just don't think he needed that archetype, someone who score first, pass second. And I fully recognize that Beal averaged almost 7 assists per game. But he needs someone like Luka. He needs someone who can come in and be, the supreme playmaker, almost heliocentric guy who just gets so much attention that Dinwiddie can cut, he can move to the mid-range area, he can get a lot of those open shots. I think a Dinwiddie-Doncic pairing makes a lot more sense than a Dinwiddie-Beal pairing, and I wouldn't be shocked if he comes into Dallas and it's like, yeah, you know what, I can return to some level. I may not be the 21.7 assist guy I was 2 years ago, but I can come in and I can be at least average from the field in terms of efficiency. I can give you 15-5. I can give you some slashing game. I can get to the free throw line. I can do these things. I don't think that's out of the question. And then if you at the same time have Bertans, who's just stretching the floor and he's being asked to just be the ultimate stretch four guy, again getting feeds from Luka, I could see them actually getting 2 solid pieces for 1 here. So I don't hate it. And fair enough. I have some optimistic views on this. I realize that may not come to fruition, but I'm just not closing the door on it. For one, I think Bertans is better than what he showed this year, and I don't think he got a fair shake in Washington. I think they forgot all about him. I don't think he was a good fit with Dinwiddie. You were on this, by the way. You said as much for almost, I think, since he signed there, that you weren't entirely crazy with the fit with next to Beal. Now you're getting something else. You're getting Luka, who's far more flexible in how he plays. I mean, he'll bend defenses, and Dinwiddie is going to get so many open shots off of that. Like, you can't say the same for Beal. I love Beal, but he doesn't bend defenses.
And I mean, they have now, if like Jalen Brunson, gets a $120 million offer from somewhere this offseason, which, to be clear, I do not think is happening, but Dinwiddie gives them some semblance of insurance in case Jalen Brunson prices himself out this offseason. It gives them another ball handler just in general. Like,
a third guard.
Yeah, I mean, hell, you can even trot all 3 of them out together. Like, I have questions about the Dinwiddie Luka fit as well, but I hope it works out. And I think you're right. Bertans has a chance to resuscitate his career at Dallas for sure. I can understand why, some people might be down on this from a value perspective, just because in theory, the Mavericks are giving up the best player in the trade and then also giving up a second round pick to take on like that Bertans contract is pretty bad just right now given his recent production.
Right now he's bad. Like that's fair to say. Yes.
And like maybe you feel like the Wizards should have been the ones giving up picks, and like maybe they should have even have to give up a first round pick to get off of that deal and bring in a guy like Kristaps. Like this just feels like two teams trading distressed assets. Like Kristaps, like he's not providing value we wanted. Here you go, Washington, and like Dinwiddie and Bertans not living up to what we thought they were. Here you go, Dallas. See if they work better for you. Yep. Like. Just throw your hands up and see what happens.
And I get that. I'm not trying to sit here and say that Dallas made a slam dunk, by the way. That's not what I'm trying to say. I just think let's see how this plays out before we judge it. I think
that's fair.
People could be surprised.
And Washington made a few other moves, as we mentioned, dumping Aaron Holiday for cash, which is just not great. Good for the Suns, not great for the Wizards. And then they traded Montrezl Harrell to the Charlotte Hornets for Vernon Carey and Ish Smith. So I guess Ish Smith is now their starting point guard again. The reunion.
How many times has Ish Smith played for? I feel like this is his third stint, but it might be his second. I don't even know. He's been on so many teams, man.
Yeah. This Wizards team, despite beating the Nets last night, that might be one of their final wins of the season. They're going to be horrific for the rest of the year.
Wait. 12 teams. Ish Smith has played for 12 teams.
It's impressive. Good. Wow. Well, at least he's racking up his frequent flyer miles.